All right. How to handle emotional manipulation in arguments as a confident man. Why she can make you feel stupid during an argument and what to do about it. We're going to be getting into understanding female brain wiring and emotional pressure. How to hold your ground and promote healthy discussions when perspectives differ without feeling like a dick, I will add. If any of you guys do not know who I am, my name is Garrett Prettyman. I am one of the associate coaches here at Good Guys to Great Men, and I also run my own private coaching practice at garrettprettymancoaching.com. We're going to jump on into this. Why she can make you feel stupid during an argument and what to do about it. And yes, I made these titles up based on experiences that I've gone through. I can't tell you how many times in years through my marriage, I would get into a discussion with my wife thinking I had a pretty solid point of view and walk away from that conversation being so confused and literally not knowing what I should have done or was supposed to do, because she would bring things into it that would just pigeonhole me into a corner. So I did not feel confident when that would happen. I didn't know what was going on, but it's actually not that complicated. There's a reason us guys can feel stupid in an argument with a woman. It's because she knows how to present her case with irrefutable emotion, even when it logically doesn't make sense. Back to what we have control of, staying grounded in the face of this, staying grounded in the face of emotions being evoked in you and it making it confusing for how you should be continuing forward. Notice when you're feeling a strong emotion when talking with your wife. Use your keen mental awareness to catch when she's trying to use your emotions as pressure to change your perspectives. Us guys have very sharp minds. We only get confused once the feelings get involved. And so just be aware when you're sitting with a truth versus sitting with an emotion. Okay, these are moments to trust your logic and intentions, not your feelings. Notice I said trust your intentions, not voice your intentions. There's a big difference. The man who trusts his intentions, he's not going to be quick to react. He's not going to be easily swayed. He's going to just know. It's like, imagine, here's a simple scenario I just thought of. If your wife came in and tried to convince you that the sky was purple and you looked outside and saw that it was blue, she could give you all the emotional pressure she wanted to try to sway you. At the end of the day, you would trust your intuition and you would just know that it's blue, and you wouldn't even waste energy trying to convince her otherwise because you see how pointless it is. It's just how it is. So we're going to look now at how men and women try to persuade others. There is a difference. Let's talk about us guys, the masculine. When we are trying to inform someone of our point of view or enlighten them of our perspective, we default to using facts and being very rational. We have logic and we use pros and cons. We see long-term trajectories and equations like the numbers don't lie. When we can prove with scientific facts that these two items will make number 4 happen, we feel like it's a solid, something we can trust, that it's irrefutable. And the male brain, underlying every thought that we have, is the question in our subconscious: is it worth it? I'm in bed. I forgot to turn the sprinkler off. Is it worth going out there right now and shutting that off, or should I let her go? My wife wants her to take her on vacation next month. It's going to cost this much money. Is it worth it? Will it be worth it to do it? That's what we're constantly analyzing life with. We see it as an exertion of energy, and we're trying to decide, is it worth the exertion? So that's what our brains are doing. Now, our wife, she's in the feminine. Her brain is different. When she's trying to persuade someone or inform them of her perspective, she defaults to what her brain knows best. She's going to use emotions, and it's going to feel like an emotional pressure. She's going to challenge intentions. She's going to report past impact. Us guys, we like to roll through life as, well, that's water under the bridge. Where to now? Like, that's our forward momentum that we feel that we want to keep moving in. But women, they are not wired like that. They remember everything, and they are quick to bring up the past. Also within the feminine mind is this evoking of fear of danger. We'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. And imagining outcomes, especially scary ones, where we're more excited about just going on the trip. She's thinking about, will there be food? Will there be shelter? Will there be happiness? She's got all these other issues going through her mind that we're not really contemplating. So you'll notice the key difference here is us men are sticking to a lot of action-based kinds of things, facts and logic, and women are more into the emotional experience of things. They have a lot of insight into how that is happening. Example of emotional manipulation. I popped this story into the roundtable earlier and emailed it to some of you. So here we're going to bring a conclusion to this story in this call. All right, here's the example. John entered the kitchen, eager to find his keys before leaving. The intense work week was nearing its end. Turning to his wife, Susan, he mentioned, I plan to go golfing tomorrow. Susan replied, if you actually loved your son, you would take him hiking tomorrow. John's emotions clashed. Was it wrong to desire some time golfing with his friends to recharge? Well, he never doubted his love for his son. Would skipping the hike imply otherwise? You can see how his emotions are starting to cloud up his thinking that was so simple. Perhaps Susan had a valid point, and he should reconsider his golfing plans. Feeling compelled to defend himself, John reasoned, you went out with your friends last night. It's only fair I get my turn. See, this is what I'm talking about. That's what us guys do. We use logical pressure. Like, he just pitched an argument that nobody could shoot down. It's pretty solid. But Susan retorted, I need a man who prioritizes his family. Notice there's no logic in that. It's emotions. She's pulling and tugging on his emotions. That's why he's starting to feel clouded. That's why he's starting to feel uncertain on what he should even do. John anticipated a brewing disagreement. What should he do? This is a story that I made up today, but honestly, it's replicating a scenario that I've been in so many times with ladies, specifically my wife, where that was the crux of our argument. Her bringing out the emotion, me bringing in the logic, and neither of us, and me becoming more and more uncertain on where I should take this or what the appropriate action should be. So we're going to address that next. And here's a golden nugget to take home. A man a woman can manipulate is ultimately a man she will resent. This is how a lot of us guys got in the situation that we created. Out of attempting to resolve the conflict, keep the peace, make her happy, just do what she says, because by darn, once she put all those feelings in us, it kind of did make sense. So whatever she wants, we'll just do that. That is ultimately a man that she will resent. She doesn't want to be able to manipulate you. It's actually really frustrating her that we are able to be manipulated like that. It feels like she's trying to manipulate us, but really it's just the fact that we're allowing ourselves to be manipulated that's the problem. So let's talk about what John should have done. A confident man will take his wife's perspectives into consideration, right? She's got some valid points usually, but he never changes course in the heat of the moment. You do not change course while the feelings are fresh in you and brewing. If John valued time to recharge, he should have protected that value with a boundary. A boundary would have sounded like this. You have a good point, Susan. I'll think it over and let you know after dinner. So here's what's happening when you set a boundary like that. You're putting a pin in the conversation because you're keenly aware with your mental sharpness that, whoa, I've got a lot of emotions going on right now and it's clouding up my clear thinking. I need a little time to sort this. And so you'd simply put that out there. That's your leadership. You acknowledge she's got a good point. You don't leave it hanging though. Like you specifically would say, like in this scenario, like, let's talk about it after dinner or whatever you want to come up with. I mean, this is your boundaries, your boundary. You can say it how you want, but it has a definite point and a definite place. This is how you use a boundary to frame feminine chaos into order. Remember, feminine flows and goes and goes. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop till it hits boundaries. A boundary would have gained John a few hours to decide which he values more, time to recharge or time with his son. Because you see, our boundaries are always protecting what we value. And what we value is not a feeling. It's rooted in a non-negotiable term that we just know to be true for us. It's clarity, and clarity is king. After dinner, he would inform Susan of his choice. All right. If he decided to cancel golfing, it would be because he chose to based on his own values. See, not an emotional choice, a value-based choice. So your masculine frame. Masculine responds from values, not emotions. That's the basic principle. And a mature man knows the difference between boundaries and preferences. I threw that in there just so you guys are aware of it, but I'll tell you right now, that's another Zoom call on another day with a different slideshow. It's a deeper topic. There is a subtle difference because a lot of us don't know how to do boundaries well. That is part of the problem too, but that's not the scope of this call. Something to look into more. One thing that I do to actually describe it in a lot more detail is in one of my ebooks, The Devastated Man's Marriage First Aid Revival Pack. And what I decided to do just for you guys, because you are on this call, is I'm going to go ahead and share a link. If you use this link within 24 hours, you'll be able to get the book for free. Here's an interesting topic. Do women gaslight? All right, so let's describe what that word means. Gaslighting is a toxic trait where a person acts in a way to generate an emotional response from the other, then convinces them they didn't see, they didn't hear, they didn't feel what they saw, heard, or felt. Okay, both men and women can gaslight. Here's the thing with gaslighting, though. It's fueled by emotional dependency. If you're seeking emotional validation from others, you are an easy target for gaslighting. A confident man trusts his gut and isn't swayed by the opinions of others. He knows his emotions are a result of his own thoughts. Our biggest weakness is when she tosses grenades that set off our jealousy and insecurity. Handling her grenades of jealousy and insecurity, a cheating woman will try to get us off the scent by saying things like, you shouldn't have a problem with me coming home late. You're just being jealous. Now, notice I'm mentioning specifically a woman who's having an affair. It's that scenario where logic tells you something isn't right. Maybe you've been feeling it for a while. You just have this gut feeling. This isn't just you being jealous. Like, you kind of have some legitimate reasons to be feeling jealous, and you're kind of on the fence about, man, is something going on? Women will try to get you off the scent. Okay, so logic tells you something isn't right, but you feel confused because what if she is right about you and you are just being jealous? That's why it's a grenade. That's why jealousy and insecurity, like being accused of jealousy or insecurity, that strikes at a man's core. We're like, oh my God, I don't want to be insecure. I'm not jealous. And then like we go on this like, she's right. I just need to quit being I'm just being a jerk. I need to stop being so jealous. Okay, that's a tactic, a gaslighting tactic that women will do. Okay, so these moments are times to show up according to your values. Again, not the emotions she's evoking from you. So if you value being home at night with your wife, then you can protect that value with a boundary. So here's an example boundary for that scenario. You can reply, that's fine if you want to stay out all night, but that isn't the kind of woman I stay in relationship with. I'm going to grab some ice cream from the fridge. Honey, do you want some? That's a classic Steve Horseman add-on right there. He usually says a cup of coffee. The point being, you're not doing it pissy. You're not doing it judgmentally. You're not doing it in a tone of anger, disgust, or control. It's a casual mention. You're like, she's free to do or be whatever she would like to do in life. You just have limits to what kind of women get to stay in your life. And it's her choice. She gets to choose you if she wants to. You're not going to force her, like, you can't go out anymore. I don't like that. I think you're cheating. Like, that is being needy and insecure. But when you set a boundary like this, there's simply a clear line of, if she wants to be on your boat, there's the fence. If she wants to be on somebody else's boat, there's the door. And when you mention something like, I'm getting some ice cream from the fridge, honey, would you like some more? That just demonstrates how detached you are from the situation. Really, it's not a big deal. It's like, I'll gladly, you want a back rub too while I'm in here? You know, you're just like, you're there to support her, to connect with her, to be her partner. You're not trying to force her into a box to be somebody that you don't feel weird emotions around or insecurity around. It's the energy, it's the vibe that you deliver this stuff on. And that's one thing that can be dangerous with us guys. We like to latch on to strategies. We like to latch on to very specific phrases like this to say. That never works. It doesn't matter what you say. It's the energy that you deliver it in that's doing all the talking. 80% of your boundary here is just how you deliver it. It's your relaxed frame. It's the calmness of your face. So it takes confidence to have boundaries. Women's sixth sense, they can sense if there's a deep confidence, that unshakableness. So we're going to touch now on understanding female brain wiring and emotional pressure. On the earlier slide, I showed you guys the difference between the male and female response tactics. Nurturing an infant, being pregnant, selecting a mate, and surviving with less muscle mass than men requires her to be more sensitive to danger. Okay, so the way she's showing up most of the time is how a woman is supposed to show up. Women feel 3 to 5 times more pressure from one unit of stress than men. And I am quoting that from Jordan Peterson. He referenced a study that discovered this. And I looked all over the internet last night looking for the documentation of that study, and I couldn't find anything except for a deleted document from a university in London. So do your own research. If that's false news, then it's false. But I've heard that passed around a bit in different communities. And it seems pretty realistic to me that if you could measure stress in a unit and put the same amount in the man and the woman, she will feel it 3 to 5 times as more pressure than we do. And experiences laced with emotion get burned more vividly into our brain. That is why she remembers everything. Remember, we talked about that just a moment ago, how she remembers everything. We don't have emotional responses for most of the stuff we do. It's in one ear and out the next. If we don't see it as relevant information, we quickly forget it. We see, like, it's that back to that male perspective. Is it worth it? Is it worth hanging on to it? And we use that baseline. But I guarantee if I walked in the room and every time and let's say you did not know my name, and I walked up to you and said, hey, my name's Garrett. And then I slapped you across the face. And then I walked in the room later and said, hey, my name's Garrett. And I slapped you again. I guarantee you would remember me. You probably would remember my name. It's because there's emotion tied with my name now. That slap had some pain, so it's burned in your brain. That's what it's like for a woman in every little tiny thing they do all day long. Everything's an emotional experience for her. And it's getting clearly written in her memory. So that's just a peek under the hood of what's going on inside her head for why she acts how she does. Again, it's normal. The bottom line is she's supposed to be emotionally driven. A confident man handles this with ease since he doesn't get on her emotional roller coaster. Term Steve uses all the time is your own lane, staying in your lane. Okay, so how to hold your ground and promote healthy discussions when perspectives differ, and I will add without feeling like a dick. 1, understand if you had her emotion, you would have the same perspective she's got. So that's how you can have empathy towards her when she's bringing in stuff and it feels, and it's evoking a lot of emotion in you and it doesn't make sense. And you almost want to look at her like in a like you're above her in a sense, because your male logic is cutting through to the other side and she's really just swirling round and round. You have to understand that if you experience life where everything had an emotional attachment or an emotional experience, you would have the same perspective she's got. So here's the biggest thing though, take her viewpoint into consideration. Sometimes she's got some valid points. We were so hard pressed to get to the finish line. We did miss some key points that she's bringing up. So definitely take it into consideration, especially since she has a keen sixth sense. I remember back in my business days, I had a colleague who would never hire an employee unless his wife approved of it. Like she would be in the room during the interview and she'd be like, this guy gives me a bad feeling. And he really trusted her gut because she was so sensitive to just knowing when you were interviewing a fraud or somebody that's got issues and they were not going to help the company. So yeah, but never abandon your values to align with her. Ask questions, get curious, listen. The more she talks, the better she feels. That is literally all she needs most of the time. As she's telling you things you don't agree with, as she's giving you her spin on something that's completely inaccurate from the intentions that you had as you were in that situation, when she reminds you what a dick you were 8 years ago on that one time you took her out for seafood, and you know she hates seafood and she's still reminding you of that, realize that the only thing that needs fixed is just to give space for it to be spoken. And then once she says it, it like removes it off her. It takes the pressure away. That's the end. There's nothing more to do with it most of the time. I do encourage men to facilitate opportunities that their wife can spend lots of time with their girlfriends, because the more she talks with her girlfriends, the better. She will bring less home for you to have to listen to, because once it's spoken, she feels good. In her head, it's all fixed. It's all better. She got it off her chest. So when holding your ground and promoting healthy discussions, you are going to set those boundaries we talked about earlier. And it's always around what you value, not what you feel, not what your emotions are saying. It's around a very specific experience that you value, or a behavior that you value. You're protecting that experience. Again, let her have her feelings, let her have her viewpoints and opinions without needing to explain yours. It's back to that analogy. If she's adamant that the sky is purple and you know it's blue, why would you even try to convince her otherwise if she's so hell-bent that her view is correct? Like, the one who does the least amount of talking is ultimately the one that holds the power. The one who asks the questions is the one that's in leadership. That's a little dating tip for you right there. Once the girl's asking the questions, you are now in the passenger seat. And so when you're asking questions and you're getting curious and you're listening, you are leading that conversation. A lot of the topics that were just barely touched on in this slide so far, these are things I go into deep with guys when I'm working with them. I do work with guys one-on-one, and I work with guys in a group setting. If any of you guys have been kicking the tires about this Married Man's Vital Formula to Masculine Confidence course that I do with Coach Mark Dredska, now is your time to pull the trigger, because we're closing registration in about a week. And as you may have noticed, we only open this a couple times a year. So if you miss out, you're going to miss out for a while. I'll put a link in the chat if you want to check out more. The landing page has more info. In fact, I'll do that right now.